Hi, and welcome to Blazing Bullets. Today we're going to look at the 500 Smith & Wesson rod. This is a 500 Magnum. This is going to be the Hornady custom FTX 300 grain load. This is rated at 2,075 feet per second. We're going to test that, see how that shows up off our chronograph. And we're going to be shooting these rounds. Oh, wait a minute. This is a Duracell. Oh. Huh. Yeah, that's almost the same size. It kind of threw me off there. Duracell battery. Yeah. It definitely wouldn't shoot the Duracell, but these 500 rounds, if you can see the size difference here, they're actually a little bit bigger than the Penlate battery, but not as thick. So the AA battery is pretty darn close to the size of the 500 Magnum round. But that's a heck of a round. Today we're going to be shooting that out of my 6.5-inch Smith & Wesson 500. This is a 5-shot revolver. Well, let's get started. Guys, so one of the things that we get a lot of times is everybody seems to think that just because that you have a 50 caliber cartridge that it's always the same. And I just saw something today on a Facebook post that was mentioning a 50 caliber slide for the Glock, and it had a round that was pretty much just slightly bigger than a 45. Didn't look like it held much powder, and all the guys were talking about, how can it possibly, the frame of the Glock possibly handle the round? Well, that's because all 50 rounds definitely aren't created equal. If you take a look at something like a 50 BMG versus a 500 Magnum, it kind of dwarfs it. But if you take something like this 500 Magnum round and compare it to something like 50 GI or 50 AE, and for instance, there's a difference there as well. So we're gonna just show you guys an example today of some of the ballistics on this 500 Magnum 50 caliber round, and I think it might be faster than some of you guys might think. So let's get her done. We're going to take a 5-shot average. Hopefully you don't scare the neighbors too much. Yeah. Got our this is a 300 grain bullet. We got our ghetto test bench here set up. We're going to shoot the ground. And we're going straight to the ground, so I'm going to mostly focus here on the scale here. Alright, that one came out at 1,928 feet per second. Second shot. That one came out at... Seems to be a duplicate. Yeah. Go ahead. All right, guys. We've had some trouble getting. We were having some trouble getting accurate readings, but I think this might have something to do with the app that's connected to this phone was crashing, and it's basically supposed to give you further details about some of your readings here. You got your save groups. It gives you like basically different, you know, temperature things and all that, and it was disconnecting from the phone. So we're going to give it another shot here. We'll be able to tell if it's within the range. It was actually giving us readings of like a couple hundred, and that's not happening. No tripod. This is more of a chronograph test as well. I'm probably going to shake when he shoots this massively recoiling round right next to me, but here we go. Yep, see, 228. It reads accurately on the phone. All different kinds of stuff, but just not right. We just did this test with a 22 and worked fine. About 800 feet per second, so not sure what's going on. Alright guys, did a battery pull, reset the phone app. We aren't sure if this is going to work, but you know, for the love of science, you know. Error. Come on, chrono. Yeah. Alright, let's give her a shot.
That was a hit. Knocked everything over too. I figure, so at least the gel didn't go in the ground. That was a hit. Alright, that one went. But as I feared, shooting on this angle here, you can tell it hit the table, bounced off the table and kept going. Now, that might have been a good thing that it kept or hit the table, because that thing almost cleared the block. That is one nasty little round. But let's get the tape measure out. We'll measure that. Now, like I said, it lost some energy hitting that table, I'm sure. But and from what I can see here, that's a pretty good stretch cavity there. That happened probably about an inch into the block here. We'll take the measurement here in a little bit, but it seemed like it kind of streamed out after that, which I'm really surprised at. I would have thought that would have really tore up that block pretty good, even before it hit that table. It just kind of nicked the table, I think, a little bit and bounced back up. But it almost went to 32 inches. You can see it resting there. You can see the trail here, and that bullet, even after hitting the table, I'm going to call that about 30¼ inches. You can see that it's just resting at about 30¼ inches. And I found a small fragment of the bullet, so I'm wondering if it didn't peel a little bit of it off. We'll find that out when we do the weight of the bullet here, but we're going to cut that out and see what it looks like. Alright, here it is out of the gel. We're going to cut the gel a little bit and see what that wound cavity look like. I can see that the little, I'm not sure if you can see it down, a little plastic thing, little plastic tip there, seemed to, you know, get out of the way there and let the bullet open up. It definitely mushroomed really good. Everything seems to be intact except for that one piece that stripped off here when it hit my table. Ripped my nice tarp too. It's my nice new tarp, but that log ripped it when it flew off the table there, so that was a pretty good hit. But that's a perfect little mushroom there. Just note, this is the underside of here. You can see where it came down and hit the table. It just skimmed it. Taken out. That's probably, that's probably where that rip came from when it hit the table there a little bit. It just kind of skimmed it and it just deflected up. When in this one right there, you can see the fragments of the jacket just kind of tore apart there in the beginning. So, I mean, that's in the beginning. It didn't even, before it even hit the table, there's even a piece right there. If I can get the camera there. There's a piece right there, so even that, you know, yeah, I'm not real impressed with that stretch cavity there. I mean, that's a pretty good nasty wound right there, but boy, it's pretty flat. It flattened out pretty fast after that. I mean, right there you can see that it didn't really do much damage after that initial explosion there. Interesting. Cut this quick. As you can see my scatter, it doesn't look too happy here. I'll get my camera inside before it gets bad up. This is for me ripping it apart real fast. Now, as many times as I've seen people do this on YouTube, there's a little plastic piece. It's not as easy to cut this gel apart as you think. But here's the stretch cavity here, and like mine, it's this half of it. This is the actual wound tract right here. You can actually see the pattern here on the other side. There's more of the plastic from the front of that. See where it dumped a lot of denim coming straight through there. That denim went in about, oh, I'd say 2 inches there, spreading the denim out there. But boy, it just kind of flatlined after that. I mean, it didn't actually hit the table there. Now this is the middle of the block, so I mean, it looks like it from there. It looked like it did, but no, this is actually flattened out right there. So only about, I would say only about. Let's measure that. Okay, that's about 4 inches in. I won't even give it to 5 inches in, where it really expanded pretty good there, tore up, but then the bullet itself just kind of tore into pieces. You can see the fragment pieces right there. Like I said, even before it hit that table there, I'm thinking, you know, maybe even the angle shot that I took on it wasn't even a problem. It just kind of streamed that way as it was starting to peel apart. I mean, I got pieces of plastic everywhere coming out of this, and that didn't even hit the table until it hit the end of that block. So yeah, it's interesting. I would have thought that round would have been a lot nastier than that. It certainly tamed down after about 5 inches. I'll have to try to do that again sometime when I get my dirt pile over here and I can actually shoot at it straight. Alright, we got the bullet out of the gel here. You can see from the view here that it's pretty symmetrical all the way around. Albeit a big guy here, it didn't mushroom really that much. I mean, I've seen 45s come out to this size here, or even bigger. So for a 500 Magnum round, that's pretty small size. And you can see it didn't really make that much of a cavity in the gel, so yeah, it's kind of small there. Now we're going to measure here and see how much, see what the weight retention is on this, but yeah, it's kind of small, and not real impressed with that round whatsoever here. So let's get to weighing this. Now before we get to weighing this, I want to show you how many different fragments are in here. Where's my little, oh, there we go. How many different fragments came out of this gel. I mean, this thing really just, there's the little plastic, and it did its job going through the gel and going through the material, going through the blue jean material. It actually, you know, let the thing expand, but I mean, that was all it could expand. It was just that. But how many different fragments was in there? Wow, it's just, I was picking fragments out and pieces of copper everywhere. But let's get it up on here, see how much it weighs. It's not sure how good you can see these little tiny pieces, but they were just little miniature pieces, some of them. And they were flying off in every different direction. Alright, before we weigh this thing, I wanted to give you a size comparison compared to the original. This is the slug that we pulled out of the gel, and this is the original round. You see, it really didn't expand that much. I mean, compared to what it was when it first started, to what it ended up being. It had a very good mushroom effect to it, but and I mean, this is a pretty heavy piece. The rest of it's not really that much, but it certainly didn't perform very well. So just so we're going to reiterate what the round was, and that was a Hornady FTX 300 grain round. Now it kicks like a mule, but not real impressed with the expansion through the gel. Alright, now that's a 300 grain bullet. As you can see, it must have got, there's probably a little bit of gel left on that, off the mushroom bullet there, but if there is, there's very little. Well, we must have got every piece out of that gel, because there's about the 300 grain mark there. See that 300 grain. So I would say that the weight retention was there, but not a very good performer, that's for sure. Not real impressed with that round whatsoever. If I were to carry that thing, which would be a miracle, because that thing's, it's like carrying a cannon around, but if I was to carry it around with me, I certainly wouldn't be carrying that around, because that I've seen 22s do more damage than that. Now, this is Blazing Bolts, and everybody please be safe out there. Peace. Only had one finger there for a minute. That's not good. Everybody be safe.